we're switching it up a little bit here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to actually do a little bit of an interview. And what do you know? I'm going to be the host for the interview. And joining for this interview, we have the CEO of NLS Pharma. It's ticker NLSP, Alex Zwyer. Alex. Let's see Alex on screen here in a sec. There he is. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, Brent. Hi. How are we doing? Cool shirt, by the way. Love it.
Thank you very much. I think it's like a Southwest United States style. I don't know if you agree. You're in Europe, right, Alex? So it's a little bit later for you, obviously. Well, thanks for staying up late with the Zinger Nation gang. We always appreciate it.
No worries.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. Oh, what was that?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, some of the other presentations have been a lot of, learning about the company and learning about the execs and learning about the management. And we are going to do a little bit of that here. But also, when we're having kind of a conversation, more of an interview, it's going to allow us just going a little bit more into, your business, I know people really drive your business. It's going to allow us to go into a little bit more top-down discussion about the industry, and let's jump right into it. And I alluded there. I know at NLS people are very important, and so tell us a little bit about your background and the rest of the NLS team.
Sure. Yes, love to. My background is 25 years in pharma, like mid-sized pharma, at a company called Zwyer Pharma, where I started as a young marketing assistant, exited as the chief operating officer of that company. I was globally responsible for, BD, building up sales forces, so marketing and sales, regulatory affairs, basically all outbound activities of the company. And US was one of my key markets. So yes, pretty extensive experience in pharma and biotech. I'm co-founder of the company, and I've been with the company since its inception in 2015. Apart from me, I'm very happy to work with a very dedicated and competent and handpicked management team. All people who've been there, done that, seen that before. So no training on the job, including CNS drugs, bringing them to the market. So that's important because speed is one of our key critical success factors.
So I'm going to preview a little bit of, what the company does and the candidates you're focused on, but obviously it's going to sound better coming from you. So NLS is focused on central nervous system disorders, narcolepsy, ADHD, and the lead candidate is called Quilliance. I'm sure the audience has heard about Quilliance out there. Narcolepsy market between a $2 and $3 billion market. Now, why would a product containing Mazindal, that's the active part, right, be important in an already large treatment market?
Yeah, good question. So, apart from being a large market, it's also an underserved market. Only, 25 to maybe 30% of the patients are actually being treated and diagnosed and treated. It's usually also an issue of, wrong diagnosis with other, comparable illnesses.
Okay.
The main reason why we believe that there is a place for our compound is because there was a survey conducted in the US that showed that 9 out of 10 patients are frustrated with current treatment options in the narcolepsy space, and obviously 9 out of 10 patients would like to see better, meaning safer, better tolerated, easier to administer drugs. Sure. And we believe one of those options could be Quilliance.
And so what's novel about the formulation for Quilliance?
So it's a repurposing compound. Mazindal was initially approved and on the market in the US for short-term obesity. And the drug is no longer on the market. We're bringing it back in a proprietary extended release formulation, which will allow for a once-a-day dosing in the morning. But will also allow to be used as a monotherapy, because in narcolepsy you have 2 core symptoms. One is the excessive daytime sleepiness, or EDS, and the other one is cataplexy. Cataplexy is the full or partial loss of muscle tone, usually triggered by strong emotions. The drugs currently on the market, they typically target one of the 2 symptoms. The only compound that we are aware of that was successfully used as a monotherapy was Mazindal, because Mazindal was used 40 years, that's 40 Brent, off-label under compassionate use.
Gotcha. And you just mentioned the extended release, right? So is the only advantage that a patient has to take it less? Are there any other advantages for having something that's extended release?
Well, I mean, the most important feature obviously is you take it pill in the morning and you forget about it, right? And this is the typical,
right,
release mechanism. Because some of the drugs that are currently approved in narcolepsy you need to take at night. You even have to set the clock and wake up at night to take those, potentially even a third dose. So I think that's a big difference. The other problem is, as I mentioned, patients are constantly, combining different therapies to treat this full spectrum of symptoms in narcolepsy. Mm-hmm. Whereas Mazendol, we believe that we have a compound that, will, target all of the core symptoms of narcolepsy, the sleepiness as well as the cataplexy. Gotcha. And it's probably due to its unique mechanism of action.
I'm sure there's some downside when a patient is looking for a few solutions, right? And you're saying, don't worry about that with Quilliance. We got it all covered, right?
Yes. The other issue that you have today in this space is tolerability, safety. Some of the drugs have black box warnings. They are controlled substances. Sure. There are issues associated to those drugs, right? So if you bring a drug to the market that is not only easy to administer and to take, but it's also well tolerated and has been proven over years and years to be safe, I mean, that's a huge plus.
Absolutely. And so Mazendol has been around for a while. You said 40 years, right? Tell us a little bit about, the candidates, the active ingredients history for, I think it was previously used for like obesity, right? And maybe for narcolepsy previously, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So it was discovered by Sandoz in the 60s. It was approved in the US in the early 70s. It was on the market for close to 30 years in the US and also in several markets in Europe. And as you mentioned correctly, it was used for exogenous or short-term obesity. So it was a diet pill, basically. Mm-hmm. But since it had weight-promoting properties, people in the narcolepsy space, and I'm talking very, very early on, like in the 70s, they tried to, because it was a rare disease, and there were no medications approved, so people tried to overcome the sleepiness. And so it was obvious they were looking for weight-promoting agents. And so that's why the compassionate use or the off-label use of Mazendol started basically from the day it was approved also in obesity. But it was never fully developed to be an approved drug in narcolepsy. This is what we are changing now.
Awesome. And so let's bring it up to a little bit more relevance here. Earlier this month, company announced that you're going to be initiating a phase 2 trial for Quilliance in narcolepsy. You officially enrolled your first patient. So tell the audience how the endpoints are set up for that phase 2 trial. And also, why do these endpoints give you confidence in the trial?
I will. First of all, let me just quickly tell you that, opening an IND and then from scratch and enrolling patients and all of that within 7 months is world record time. We've done this in warp speed, and I'm very, very proud about that feature. So we are now recruiting patients, and things look very good. We're actually recruiting patients at a multiple of what the competition does. So apparently, the drug seems to have already its followers in the space. Mm-hmm. Not only physicians, but also patients seem to like the protocol.
The other part was, why are you confident in the trial? The way the trial is set up, what makes you confident?
Endpoint, right? So the endpoints that we are using in this phase 2 proof of concept study are identical to the endpoints that we have found in a retrospective analysis sponsored by the French FDA, who looked at several years of off-label use of Mazendol on the compassionate use program. So it's the same endpoints. It's called the ESS, or Epworth Sleepiness Scale for the sleepiness. And then, a most objective one, it's the change in weekly cataplectic attacks. So this is actually what virtually everybody's doing in this type of, proof of concept studies. So we're not reinventing the wheel here, but we are very confident because we already have seen in the retrospective data, what the outcome in terms of those endpoints will be. So, we are very much convinced that, the study will look very similar to the retrospective data. Now it's going to be prospective, but also retrospectively, it was used in refractory patients, which means patients that had no other options. So for you to be able to receive Mazendol in the past, everything else must have failed. So the highest dose of sodium oxybate, the highest dose of methylphenidate, of modafinil, only then you would be allowed under compassionate use rules to have access to Mazendol. And despite that, we had phenomenal results. So I think we're very confident that this trial will be nothing but successful.
Awesome. Love to hear it. And we know that investors love to get a feeling for timing of different trials when patients are enrolling. So let's talk a little bit about the timing if we can. For next steps, can you give us some indications of what the timings will be like? When can we expect data for the phase 2 trial, for example?
Right. So we have enrolled the first patient, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We've announced that. We're doing very well. We're going to give constant updates to the markets of how we're doing in terms of the enrollment. We have promised the market to have interim top-line results towards the end of this year. This means, from the 60 patients that we expect to enroll in this study, at least 30 patients will be enrolled, which will allow us for an interim analysis. So to answer your question, the very next important, value inflection point, the data readout, is expected towards the end of this year.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And other key milestones or, catalysts for the stock that your management team has on the radar right now that you'd like to give the investor audience a little heads up on?
Yeah, sure. So, we are expecting the issuance of our formulation patent. That's the extended release patent, which is, key for this drug, for the once a day monotherapy dosing. So we expect that to be issued towards the end of this year as well. And then there might be other news around the pipeline. We do have a very deep pipeline.
Great.
And we expect news about that as well. But right now we're really laser focused on the clinical trial. So I think updates on the enrollment, on the recruitment, is what is going to drive the key value here.
Awesome. I know that the audience loves to, be able to set their sights on stuff so they know when they should start looking around for stuff. So thanks for answering that one. I know that you recently had a deal with Novartis. Can you talk about that deal at all?
Yes, that was a very important milestone. We worked on that deal for many moons. Novartis, or Sandoz before, they were the ones who, approved the drug, right? So they were the owner of the NDA. The drug is no longer on the market. So, what we managed is to do a license deal with Novartis, which gives us exclusive access to the full NDA, right? Which is key. Why? Because we are using the 505(b)(2) pathway, and there's a ton of data that we will be able to use to our benefit when going to the FDA and in terms of discussing the regulatory pathway. But it also helps us to design better trials to better understand the drug, because it also has data around CMC, pharmacokinetics, the drug substance. So it's the entire NDA, right, from a big pharma company. So having that on an exclusive basis, was for us a major milestone.
Sure. And so moving away from Novartis, would you consider partnering globally or regionally?
I think it's probably a bit too early, even for the partners on the other side, because they first want to see what the data looks like. I think at this point we're not laser focused on either way. We have internally the knowledge, the capability to build commercial teams and launch products. It's what I've done, globally for Zwyer Pharma, the company that I worked for previously. But in the end, it always depends, right? If the right offer comes, we're definitely going to look at it. But at this point, we have not decided, which way to go. There's certainly interest in what we're doing. That's for sure.
Sure. Okay, so this is something that I personally know a little bit less about, so I kind of want to ask you direct. Compassionate use program for Quillians. That would be after the investigational new drug application is approved. But can you elaborate on what a compassionate use program for Quillians would look like?
Sure, it's basically part of an expanded access, which means bringing the drug to patients, especially within rare disorders or rare diseases, before the drug is approved. So it's basically the ability for the company to generate pre-approval revenues, right? But it's also the possibility to bridge your patients from your trials into a compassionate use program where they're going to have access to the drug until the drug is approved. So you don't lose the patients, as to speak. So, and you can maintain the dialogue with your key stakeholders, the patient associations, with the physicians, key opinion leaders, and so on. So compassionate use programs, expanded access programs, a different word. A subgroup would be on the named patient basis. These are all tactics and strategies to bring the drug to the patients before it's approved. By the way, I used this strategy numerous times at my previous company. So I'm very familiar with it. So
you got some experience with it. Great. Okay, gotcha. And so learning a little bit more about Quillient's potential out there, I mean, could Quillient's be used for something else besides narcolepsy, or maybe ADHD is the other indication that I saw, maybe you guys were thinking about for Quillient's?
Listen, the more we discover about this compound, the more excited we are. Its unique mechanism.
Amazing.
Targeting the orexin system, holds a lot of promises, right? So you mentioned ADHD. We run an ADHD trial. It was one of the most successful phase 2 studies ever conducted in the US, where we had at par efficacy with the best, stimulants on the market, and with a very clean safety profile. So ADHD is definitely an indication to look for. And then there are other indications around narcolepsy, like idiopathic hypersomnia, sleep apnea, that are associated indications in the sleep disorder realm. So yes, there are other indications that we're currently looking for.
And I think for investors, something that as an investor or prospective investor, you always want to hear from your executives is, we are so excited about this. And that's just what you express for Quillient's there. Love it. Let's talk about patents for Quillient's and kind of some of the exclusivities. Is there any patent protection for Quillient's?
So yes, there is. We also have orphan protection or orphan designation. Once the drug is approved, this turns into an orphan protection, which is the commercial protection. I would say it's probably even higher in the hierarchy than an IP, right? And because that cannot be challenged, IP can be challenged in court. So we have orphan designation both in the US and in Europe, which will give us 7 years in the US, 10 years in Europe. It can be increased to 12 years with the pediatric plans. To answer your question, there is also IP. We have a use patent for Mazendal and ADHD. And we've just announced not too long ago the notice of allowance for our formulation patent, which doesn't only cover narcolepsy, but also covers ADHD, and by the way, also idiopathic hypersomnia. So you wouldn't need those patents because you are protected by the orphan protection once you're on the market. Mm-hmm. Once that runs out, of course, you will be happy to have additional layers of IP. We have them now.
Excellent. Okay. Any other candidates out there? What's your pipeline look like?
So we have several. One that I think is very exciting is not a repurposing, but that's a new molecular entity. It's called loflumide. It's a next generation Provigil in the US, so the active ingredient is called modafinil. That's a super interesting compound. It's a very, very potent wake promoting agent that I would foresee, in several indications, maybe even in long haulers, because one of the key symptoms in COVID, long hauling COVID symptoms is the chronic fatigue syndrome. So, having a very potent wake promoting agent to keep you awake during the day might be an interesting thing. So, but this is an early stage drug. We have other drugs that are, a little bit more advanced. We'll in the next couple of weeks and months decide, what the priority is, because again, we are right now laser focused on narcolepsy.
Excellent. Love the focus, Alex. So really quickly, if there are investors out there in our audience who are wanting to learn about some of those candidates that you kind of just hinted at there, what's the best place where they can get more info?
Well, I mean, given that we are a public entity, there's not too much that you can do apart from just do the reading and trying to be on conferences such as this one, right? Where people are gonna maybe open up a little bit and let you look what's under the hood. But we will decide when to inform the markets when we feel confident about it. We clearly and firmly believe in in our credo of over delivering and under promising. So that's we want to keep that because we've been very successful with that approach.
Awesome. Did you hear that, audience? Alex is saying, do your homework. That's wise words of wisdom from Alex Zwyer. He is CEO of NLS Pharmaceutics. It's ticker NLSP. Thanks so much for joining, Alex. I hope you have a good rest of your night.
I will. Thank you, Stuart. Cheers.
Cheers. That was fun. I like doing interviews. It's cool when I get to talk to y'all, but it's cool when I have somebody who can respond not via typing. I like in the chat. I like typing, don't get me wrong, but it's just nice to hear a voice and see a face. So that was kind of fun. We're gonna switch it back into presentation mode. I'm looking at my agenda here, and I'm just kind of scanning through my agenda. We're gonna have coming up in a few minutes here, we're gonna have Vivos Therapeutics. It's ticker VVOS. I know a few of you in the audience. There was a chatter a few hours ago that was like, I'm here for Vivos. That was a few hours ago. So I know this is going to be a good one. Coming up after that, we're going to be talking with Matt Timpain. He's a senior market strategist at Schaefer's. Gives some really good information. After 3 p.m., Volition RX. It's ticker VNRX. A little bit later, Cloud DX. At 4 p.m., Neovast. That's ticker NVCN. And then one of our last presentations for the day is going to be GBS Inc. We're going to be talking with the CEO and the CFO. And we have, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we have about 2 hours left, two and a half hours left in the presentation for track one today. Track two over in the other room over there where Spencer's at. That one's going to conclude a little bit earlier today, I believe. And guess what? We are back tomorrow for some more good information, some more good content. Another full day, 2 days, 2 tracks. Benzinga Small Cap Healthcare Conference. We're bringing you 50, 60 publicly traded corporations, execs from those corporations, panels, interviews, a whole lot of good content, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor, smash the like button for me, for Matt Timpain that's coming up, for Alex Zwyer that we just had on, for Rohan. Rohan's around here somewhere. Give a like for Rohan. And we are going to, really quickly, I am going to share my screen, and we're going to do dun, 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 another Slido poll. Dun, 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 dun. We could probably do some better sound effects than that. But I think you guys like my sound effects. I'm going to share my screen, and we will take a look at our next couple questions here for Slido. I'll say it again. Why are we doing the Slido polls? Well, we have 10 or 11 or 12 questions I'm going to be asking over the course of today. Scan that QR code down there. You can participate on your phone. And if you participate good enough, you are going to be entered to win a 1-year Benzinga Pro subscription. Benzinga Pro is the premium trading and investing research news platform. It's what I am spending most of my time on each day when I'm working at Benzinga. It's like a $1,000+ value. You could win it for free if you just participate in these questions. This was the last question. Let's go to the next one. Next question. And I'm going to hide my results because I feel like people are, wrong button. I feel like people are cheating and they're using other people's responses. So name this chart pattern. And I think what can I do? I think I can expand it. I think I can make it. Is that too small to see? I think I can make the chart a little bit bigger, but I'm a noob with Slido, so I don't know how to make it bigger. Let's see. Name this chart pattern. Is it a descending triangle? Is it a falling wedge? Is it a bearish pennant? Or what's this last one? I can't see this little bar thing's in my way. Help me out, chat. What's that last one? Is it a falling wedge? Is it a descending triangle? Is it a bullish pennant? Or is it a bearish pennant? And Aaron Thomas, cue the Jeopardy music. No, not really. You don't have to do that. He's looking for it. I don't think he found it really that quickly though. So we'll go to the next one. Thanks, Aaron. Blank is a calculation that takes into account the varying degrees of importance of the numbers in a data set. One more time. Blank is a calculation that takes into account the varying degrees of importance of the numbers in a data set. Is it the price target? Is it the simple moving average? Is it the weighted average? Or is it technical analysis? How many questions do we have left here? I think we have, Aaron, do you know how many questions we have today for our Slido poll? He's saying 4. I think he's saying 4 more. We have 11 questions in total. So we just hit a couple more. We just hit 2 or 3 more right there. We'll be back in a little bit here